because speaking of yesterday, because it is Sunday when we're recording this, live from Cleveland was WWE SummerSlam 2024, full of twists, turns, surprises. Um, Obviously, the headline being the return of Roman Reigns, but there were so many other matches. We had that Logan Paul versus LA Knight US title match. Braun Breaker won the Intercontinental Championship. We saw Damian Priest drop the World Heavyweight title to Gunter. We saw Liv Morgan retain her title, but she gained Dom officially, and it looks like the Judgment Day is kind of over. But I kind of wanted to know your impressions of SummerSlam and your reactions to the show.
Uh, it was a okay show. I think the best thing that we can get from it is the progression with the storylines. Everything
Yes.
that played out as we thought was going to happen. It's kind of becoming predictable now, but at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, these stories are very linear for the most part. It's never non-linear where you think it's going to be a curveball. For the most part, you can kind of
Yeah.
guess what's going to happen based on Triple H's booking. Is that a slight at him? Kind of, but at the same time, the old man ain't there, and the old man was crazy. So he'll throw you 20, 30, 40 curveballs, and you could just walk him, but then somehow he still wins the game. But
Mm.
overall, it was pretty good. It made me more invested into. I mean, dude, Dom, you know how I feel about Dom. Him,
Yeah.
Jey Uso, and Gunther are my favorite wrestlers right now. You can't tell me nothing bad about Dominic, especially because he's about to get nuclear heat after this. So
Oh
overall,
my
it was a pretty good pay per view. I mean, we'll get to it probably as we do match by match, but without question, that Gunther versus Damian Priest match, yeah, the indie
God.
darlings until Hall of Famers. That's how you do it.
Yeah. I would agree. I think that SummerSlam was a very, very solid show. I'm not even going to try to give my impressions until we go through match by match. So let's start. Let's go through match by match. So let's starting with the Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley women's world title match. Uh Obviously that was the thing that kicked off the show. Want to know kind of how you felt about it.
With Liv, her ring psychology, she's getting there. I think people
Mm,
fail to realize it takes years to not be green and to still learn how the business works and how to work in the ring. With her,
mm,
she's developed over the course of the past couple of years, let alone her character. So in the beginning, as everybody see, I'm about to get real nerdy. She gets in, no lockup. Okay, I'm gonna do the heel thing. I'm gonna go outside, get some heel heat, go back in, taunt you a little bit more, roll out. That's an old school move. That was great. Then when it was time to, they start working and then the spots get settled, that's when it really was like, okay, yeah, she's getting better. Her
mm,
pacing is a little too fast still, but I think it's just because of her body type and the way she probably learned how to work. Obviously, she went through a small independent wrestling school until then go to the performance center. So they teach you how to be faster in the performance center, especially for
mhm,
women. So I can't fault her for that. Whereas Rhea, she learned overseas. It's more so about pacing, psychology, and working certain body parts,
yeah.
and also selling. As she did a phenomenal job selling that arm, putting it back in place. Whether more than likely it was a work, but at the same time, still doing that. Well, I don't think it was a work, but I didn't. I got to see that again because I just watched pay per view this morning. But nonetheless, even if it was a work or it was a shoot, still for her to pop her arm back into place is crazy.
Yeah.
Uh, the biggest thing from this match, obviously, is the ending.
Mm,
That's what you were supposed to do. That's what we knew you was going to do. But the execution of it is perfect. And again, Rhea can sell. Everything is here.
yeah.
This is your moneymaker. Not only is she a great looking woman, but she can act. She can cut a promo. And that's what she showed right here when the kiss happened. And again, shouts out to Dominic. The timing of everything from the chair spot until they got outside and then Liv was on the ground. Cool. Everybody, great to everybody. But when she was on the ground, he picks her up and then you can just hear the crowd and then the kiss. Perfection. And that's how you do it.
I think in addition to that, I think that not only is Dom going to get nuclear heat, but I think that this is a very, very pivotal step in his evolution as a character. When we saw Dominic Mysterio being brought into the Judgment Day, he was naive, he was innocent, he was just coming in as, somebody that was under his father, and he didn't really have, that umph to him the way that we know him to have it now. But the story that kind of underlined this was the oppressed becoming the oppressor, the manipulated becoming the manipulator. And it almost felt like a full circle moment because Rhea was beating up Dom when it was time for him to be into the Judgment Day. But now the little things and the little details that Dom did when he made that kiss with Liv show me that now he's the person that is in control, right? He was the one that picked her up, put the title on her. He was the one that initiated the kiss. These are little things that demonstrate and illustrate control. And to be the person to go from not being in control to being in control, I think was the point or the secondary point, I think, of this match and of this storyline. I couldn't help but to get, not even a little emotional, but just like, oh, because when I saw Rhea and Dom walk out, you kind of knew that that was it. The little backstage interaction, you saw Dom and Rhea kind of like tap each other on the shoulder, and it's like these guys and these girls aren't just people that are just on screen together. The Judgment Day travel together, right? And when you bond together for that long, mind you, like anytime we listen to wrestlers talk about their lives on the road, we hear them talk about, they see each other more than their actual families. You know what I mean? Like this group, this tandem, this is a family. And so to kind of see the look in both of their faces, kind of showing us like this is it. This was the point. This is the crescendo of the Rhea Dom in the context of Dom being in the Judgment Day. This is the crescendo of that, right? And this was ultimately, I think, the point, right? For Dominic to be this developed heel that now is believable enough to be considered the person that is in control. And then obviously with Liv Morgan retaining the title, I think that this feud is going to continue for a little bit longer. I think we're going to see it wrap up possibly at Bad Blood in Atlanta. I can see some type of cage match, some type of hardcore rules match where Rhea kind of reclaims her title. But I definitely see that this cemented Dom as the guy, as a heel who is believable, who is not so innocent and naive anymore. It solidifies Liv as a legit champion. This is not a transitional champion. She's not just holding the belt until Rhea gets back. Rhea's back. She won. So I think that when we talk about moments in wrestling, I think that they're multifaceted and they accomplish multiple things. And I would think that they were able to accomplish a lot on this one. Moving on to the next match, Braun Breaker versus Sami Zayn, where Breaker actually beat Sami in convincing fashion to win the WWE Intercontinental Championship. Thoughts on the match?
Well, like I said, I watched it this morning, being a
Mm,
pay per view, because I was watching boxing last night. I was watching the Andy Ruiz match.
mm,
I'm probably mispronouncing his last name, but dyslexia is a real thing, people. So I was watching his match last night, and I fell asleep. Now,
mm.
side note, I won't take away from the audience, but I fell asleep, woke up this morning, and was like, damn. Again, we'll talk about it later on, but came back and I was just like, all right, I hate Eastern Standard Time, but I digress. I say all that to say, if I were to watch a Sami Zayn match, I would still be asleep right now, as of this
Jeez.
recording. So Braun Breaker is a good choice. All jokes aside, Sami Zayn is a good worker. All jokes aside, I'm not a fan, but he's a great worker. Now Kevin Owens, that's a whole different conversation. Anyhow, uh, it was time. I think that he's ready.
Mm,
And what everybody says is he wants to listen and he wants to learn. This is coming from top three, top five greatest tag teams of all time, being the Steiner brothers, and hell, his uncle Scott, on his own merits, is a Hall of Famer.
yeah.
One of the funniest wrestlers of all time, besides Ric Flair and Iron Sheik by far. But for him to just walk in there and not, be like, I'm a Steiner, I don't need to learn. It tells you everything you need to know about his acumen and what he wants to do in life. Athleticism off the charts, great worker, and it's like he's getting better all the time. I think it was a good choice. Sammy is a Hall of Famer. That man right now, he's having, in the past 2 years, he's having his best run that he'll ever have. I mean, obviously to be an honorary Oos, like, dude, again, I don't like pocket watching, but I would love to see his royalty checks from the past 2 years, because especially in 2022 and then last year, they were insane probably. But again, it was time for Braun Breaker to get over. Uh, are we tired of seeing the matches between what's his name? Doja? I can't now see his name. Ilya. You on mute, brother.
Ilya Dragunov.
There you go. I can't now see their last names again. Y'all gotta pray for me. I gotta learn how to read again or something. So we could see it with the IC title. That'd be great. Um, I don't really have much to say. I think now Sami Zayn is in babyface mode, like he's been for a while, where it's the thrill of the chase, and that's how it works for the babyface. Or, eventually he might get back with Roman Reigns in there. We'll see.
I agree. I think that I feel like this definitely sets Sammy up. I mean, obviously, we've been hearing rumblings about a potential Bloodline War Games match or Survivor Series, which we'll talk about later in the show. Um, but I feel like this puts Sammy in position for that because there's really nothing connected to him at this point in time. You would assume that this kind of he'll get a rematch for the IC title, and he probably won't win. Braun definitely deserves it right now. I think that Braun Breaker is a future world champion. Paul Heyman said it best. He is a WrestleMania moment waiting to happen, which coming from Paul Heyman means an absolute lot. But like you said, his athleticism is off the charts. I recently watched his Pat McAfee interview. Really down to earth guy, super humble. You can tell he works. He works, and so I'm very very excited for Braun. I think that he deserves this. I really wanted him to win the last PLE, but I'm glad that this happened at a Big Four. I think it's a bigger moment, and the way that he won was so convincing. It almost made you forget about the last match where Sammy won. So happy for him. As far as Sammy is concerned, man, like you said, definitely a future Hall of Famer. Definitely somebody who is having the best run of his career. And I'm eager to see kind of where he goes from here as well. But moving on to the next match, LA Knight defeats Logan Paul for the US title. Feelings, thoughts?
Us about time with LA Knight. I'm not a fan of his, but I like his story.
Mm.
He really hustled to get to where he got to now. Ironically, him and Solo, who we'll talk about later, went to the same wrestling school in Vegas. It's
Oh,
the
wow.
reason why LA Knight calls himself LA Knight, because he moved to LA when he was a little bit younger, even though he's 50 years old. When he was a little bit younger, he moved to LA. He was chasing Hollywood, but he was more so focused on professional wrestling. But he would drive for gigs to Vegas and back. So that's a little backstory on him. But they went to the same wrestling school in Vegas,
Mm.
where D'Lo Brown, I think D'Lo Brown owns it or a part owner.
Yeah.
Um, it's about time. I'm glad he got that mid card title. I know his contract, I think, is up at the end of this year, early next year. More than likely, they'll renegotiate with him.
Right.
Obviously, we knew the Logan Paul situation. We knew he was going to do the job based on him being ignorant. Uh, I don't need to divulge into that because you already know. Like,
Yeah. Y'all know.
it's that young white pride. Like, bro, all you had to just say was sorry. That's all you need to do. Like, dog, I got a lot of beliefs in my life. I ain't gonna say out loud. I'll say in the confines of my own home, and it's no incel stuff like that anyway. Because let me tell y'all something. Why do you care? That's my whole thing. Why do you even care? And then they found out it was false anyway about the woman.
Right.
So it don't matter, bro. Just say you sorry. But again, he wealthy, he young, he white. Far as Logan Paul, I'm not a fan of his at all. I never was, even before he got into pro wrestling, because he can do a front flip. Cool, that impressed me. The Juice used to do that all the time. God bless Psychosis. God bless Juventud Guerrera being the Juice. Super crazy. I came up on Lucha Wrestling back in the 90s, dog. That don't impress me. You could do a front face or whatever, front flip. I don't care about that flippy stuff. Can you tell a story in the ring? But you know, uh, good for LA Knight. He definitely deserves it.
I agree with you. It's definitely good for LA Knight. Funny part is I actually was impressed by Logan Paul, not because of what he was doing, but how quickly he took to this business and how quickly he took to what he was able to do in the ring. He's a natural athlete, right? So him being able to do all the athletic stuff. Number one, I didn't know he was a natural athlete, but when I saw it, I was thoroughly impressed. I'm not even gonna lie. Even down to the little springboard moonsault that he did yesterday, he got up. He got up. That was impressive. So I'm not even going to act like Logan. I don't appreciate Logan. I think that based on how quickly he's been taking to this and how he's been able to evolve and learn as he goes, I think it's impressive. As it pertains to LA Knight, I've been a fan of LA Knight since he was Eli Drake in TNA. And so I think, like you said, this was definitely something that was long overdue. I also really, really love, and WWE does this whenever they can, how they integrate local culture into the product, right? Cleveland ain't known for much. We know that. But they were able to get MGK and integrate him into the match. I thought that that was a nice touch. Making MGK a heel, I think, was a nice touch as well, considering that he was accompanying Logan. So I thought that that was pretty cool. But yeah, I thought that this was LA Knight's night, no pun intended, and I'm just glad that he was able to get his. Now on to the WWE Women's Championship match: Nia Jax versus Bailey. I thought that the ending of this match was genius. But I want to know how you felt about the match.
In the words of the great future, I'm loving it. I loved everything about this match. I don't know how much you want to go in depth about it. Bailey Strong.
Yeah, she is.
Uh, that's all I'm gonna say right there. Nia Jax. She looked good and she's strong. Good back and forth between them. I thought the nice touch of her saying, "Oh, I'm dangerous." You and your little homegirl said I was dangerous. Now look at me now. And another person who's gotten better over time. I'm not saying this at all about her weight, but she slimmed down.
Mhm.
Did I care if she slimmed down? As long as she healthy, but I don't care how big or how small Nine Jax is. I need it respectfully, so I don't care. But overall, it was time. It lets you know that the Queen of the Ring thing is serious. And then when
Yes.
we get into the WWE title match, I'll talk about that more. But it lets you know how serious the Queen of the Ring is. Shouts out to Tiffany Stratton for coming out. And that little touch that me and her about to have a rivalry. And you know, they TikTok buddies too, so that makes it even better.
I actually agree. And that's one of the reasons why I said that the ending of the match is genius, right? Because you could make the argument that Tiffany was coming in to cash in, or you can make the argument that Tiffany was coming in to be a distraction, right? Because there was this whole thing where like Tiffany was like, oh, I promise you, like Nia made her promise that she wasn't gonna cash in. And so now, with the fact that she did get knocked off the apron, she can spin that and say, I was out just to be a distraction. You saw me celebrate with you after the match. Like it was just a distraction. My time will come. I was just there for you. It leaves a lot left and it leads to a build between potentially the both of them, which is something that I am actually looking forward to. But like you said, Nia strong, Bailey strong. I felt like because of the iteration of the King of the Ring tournament and the Queen of the Ring tournament, they needed to do something that was going to showcase the value of the tournament. Similar to how at New Year's resolution in '06, when Edge cashed in on Cena, how that kind of demonstrated the value of the Money in the Bank briefcase. We had two of those moments last night, with one with Gunter and the other one with Nia. So I'm really, really glad that we saw a title change, and I'm glad and I'm happy for Nia. To be completely honest, she came back to WWE, and I feel like a lot of people don't openly acknowledge how valuable she was to the roster. The fact that she put on solid matches and solid programs with other women outside of the title picture, and she was able to add a lot of depth and a lot of value to that women's division, and then to be able to become the champion. I think is just a great, great thing, and I'm super happy for Nia. Moving on from that, this was my match of the night: Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk, with the special guest referee being Seth Rollins.
Oh, you want me to talk about this match? Okay, cool. It's a bar by. probably the greatest rapper of all time, Tupac Shakur. Larry Holmes looking all flabby and sick, trying to take, trying to say I took nine like this or something like that. But I know the flabby and sick line. 50 Cent said it as well. And Hail Mary. Who is Larry Holmes? People, CM Punk. Hey man, I know he rusty. This is what fifth time being hurt in the past 3 years, and he take months to come back. That's cool and all. Hey man, he got one more year left. After this, let him commentate. I know they just re-upped on his contract, and we talked about letting him commentate, dog. It ain't the same no more. What Jamie Foxx said about Michael Jackson, he's spinning it slow. That's CM Punk. He was never that fast to begin with. But otherwise than that, let me talk about the match a little bit. It was cool, but again, it was kind of like, let's see if the old man could really go. That's why they probably had Seth Rollins as the special guest referee. You know what I mean? So it can give a little bit more to the story, so they can get back into their program. Whenever that match supposed to happen between Seth Rollins and CM Punk, if they was trying to make it for WrestleMania next year, they might want to do that tomorrow, dog. Seth Rollins is still hurt. He ain't wrestled in a minute. Last time he wrestled, he was looking slow. Like, you just don't heal that fast from a knee injury and back problems. Back problems never go away. Once you got a back injury, it stays with you the rest of your life. There's nothing you can really do. All right. So with them, they need to make that match tomorrow. As far as my guy Drew, who I thought he was the MVP, but we're gonna talk about the MVP in a minute. Listen, finally he got a win. I'm glad he got a win. He deserved a win. But they might have a rematch after this. More than likely in Berlin. People keep forgetting Berlin. Everybody keeps talking
At
about
the end of the
bad
month.
blood. Yeah, everybody keeps talking about bad blood. No, I think the bad blood match might actually be CM Punk versus Seth Rollins. And considering that they have a sold out house, they might want to go ahead and pull that. But we'll see. Drew still looks great in the ring, obviously because he works damn near every week. And as far as the story progression, at this point, it's like, because what CM Punk did this past weekend with that picture, I said, I don't know where y'all go after this one.
Mm. I think, first of all, I agree with the fact that Punk was looking a little slow. Obviously, you're going to be slow coming off of an injury, not sure kind of like your limits or your capabilities. So I'm not even going to hold that against him. But that match delivered. From a storytelling perspective, there were so many layers to it. There are so many little hidden gems and Easter eggs. Number one, the homage to the 97 SummerSlam match between Taker and Hitman, and with Shawn as the guest referee. Seth kind of paying homage to Shawn, McIntyre paying homage to The Undertaker, and obviously CM Punk paying homage to Bret the Hitman Hart with the boots. Beautiful touch. And almost kind of a very, very similar storyline where the special guest referee really doesn't have a dog in the fight, right? And either way, it's a win for them. So I think it was just a really dope stuff like that was a really good touch. I feel like the right decision was also made as far as who went over in the match. I'm glad that Drew won. And I think that this kind of puts things into perspective about Punk and kind of where he stands with the talent backstage. I feel like there was a lot of speculation on this guy just wants to be at front and center. He just wants to be the guy. He just wants to come in and win everything. I feel like in this particular case, you can tell he put his money where his mouth is. He did what was best for the locker room. He did what was best for the product. And what was best for the product is Drew McIntyre winning. Also, the bracelet at the end of the match and seeing Seth with the bracelet on, and then them going back and forth, and then Drew winning the match and then putting the bracelet back on. Great touch, beautiful storytelling. And it kind of shows that Punk and Drew are more similar than they like to believe. Similar to how Drew lost based off of him, you know, punking himself out, no pun intended. Punk lost by kind of punking himself out and getting in his own way. And the fact that now there's that parallel in that story, I think is a great way to kind of tie this all together. But I really enjoyed that match, and I feel like Punk is definitely going to get better over time, as far as like his ability to kind of do stuff in the ring. I can see what you're saying as far as like this being his last year, but at the same time, man, I'm just glad to see Punk back in the ring because that's my favorite, one of my favorites. But
That's me talking trash, but you know, it just he getting older, man, as we
yeah,
all are. So
as
you
we
get
are,
slower, and that's just what it happens. Not me
absolutely.
though. I'm in my prime, even at this age. Well, not my hairline, but everything else. Yeah.
Everything else. Going to the next match though for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, we have Gunter versus Damian Priest. Gunter finally defeats Damian Priest and becomes the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, making him the king of the ring that has won the title, similar to how Nia was the queen of the ring who won her respective title. Your opinions on the match, your opinions on the decision. Tell me.
You know that Ric Flair meme from TNA that everybody's been using lately?
Which one?
This is real, brother. This is wrestling. You see that? That's pro wrestling right there.
I
That's
agree.
how you do it. If somebody says like my brother E from Black and Out Table, he said he didn't really like the match because of the chops. I get it because chops are starting to become the new super kick where
Mm-hmm.
everybody has a chop and it's like, dude, okay. But with Gunter, his
It
are
hits.
effective enough. Yeah. But it was a lot of chops. But I'll say, to me personally, so far it's candidate the match of the year. The art of pro wrestling. See, I'm about to really get like Mike Fratello in there. I'm
Go
about to
ahead.
get on my Hugh B. Brown. Start breaking stuff down. The art of pro wrestling is you got a baby face, you got a heel. It's give and take, and that's what they did. All right, you gonna chop me, the baby face. I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna kick you, chop, or whatever your offense is. Baby face comeback, and that's when he did start hulking up. When the Finn Balor thing started happening, he's like, all right, the baby face is upset. Let me try to grab Finn Balor, but I'm gonna take my eye off the ball.
Mm-hmm.
It's pro wrestling all in one. You get mad at the manager, even though Finn Balor wasn't the manager. You get mad at the person that's interfering. If y'all want an example, Stone Cold versus The Rock, WrestleMania 17, 2001.
Mm.
Vince said, "Man, what you doing out here?" The Rock's the babyface, but then the heel turns into the heel, even though he was the babyface being Stone Cold.
Yeah.
Gunther got a argument, even though he plays a heel, he more so over as a babyface because people really love the way he works. His offense is, I ain't got no finisher. Either I'm gonna choke you out, I'm gonna power bomb you 20 times, or I'm gonna chop you to death. That's his finisher. I think this match also solidified him, for me personally, as the MVP of the year and as one of the greatest of all time. Not just in WWE, but in pro wrestling history. It's been a lot of older people saying how great he is, but if you look at his career from the Indies, when he was with Revolve, all these indie promotions, to then go to NXT UK, people forgot he held the record
Killed.
there. He had probably two classes, but definitely that classic during the pandemic against our guy Ilya that we
Ilya.
talked about earlier. He's the longest reigning IC champion of all time. I think he won US champ as well, if I'm not mistaken. He's in this year alone, he's broke the record for IC title. Um, King of the Ring, and now world champion. Like, dog, he's one of the greatest workers of all time by far. Had a classic match last year, that triple threat match against Sheamus and Drew McIntyre. So
Yes.
it's like he's building up his resume. I think he's only in his mid 30s, which is young. He's building up a resume constantly. And for a dude that's supposed to be a heel, he's supposed to be, that's up. Now he's turning himself into like an uppity, like, Austrian Hitler type dude. Not Hitler type dude, but Nazi, well, Hitler, Nazi Germany type dude, but he's over
Mm.
as a baby face, even though he's not supposed to be a baby face.
Yeah.
That lets you everything you need to know about his decorum and how people view him.
Mm. I agree, man. I didn't I didn't follow you at first when you said Gunter is one of the greatest of all time, but when you put into context his resume, especially over the past 3 to 4 years from his run as the NXT UK champion to where he is now, he has built uh, a pretty substantial resume. Not to mention that he's had pretty incredible performances in matches like the Royal Rumble as well. So we got to put that into perspective as well. What I think was my standout moment of this match was the Finn Balor heel turn. I feel like it was so, once again, so well done. And another story that came full circle because Damian Priest had cost Finn Balor the world title last year at Money in the Bank. And you thought he put that behind him, and he didn't. And so to see that story kind of come full circle and to see Finn Balor kind of turn into the prince again with the facial expression, I think that that was one of my favorite moments of the night and what definitely my favorite moment of the match. As it pertains to Damian Priest, one of the things that was a concern was that because he did not win clean in any of his title defenses, that everyone thought that he was either a transitional champion or he was going to be considered a transitional champion or someone who simply had a forgettable title reign. Because he had such a solid showing last night, I don't view him as neither. I don't view him as either or. I feel like he had a great showing last night that proved that the point of the entire championship run was to elevate him into a main event status. He is a main eventer. I don't, I think he's a main eventer. He's a main event guy now. And I think that that was the point of this championship reign, was to show that he is a main eventer. So I think that the multiple goals were accomplished here, but I'm very, very excited to see what comes of this because Gunter is king of the ring. He is now the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, which means that both on the women's and the men's side, this tournament is now super valuable, right? This is kind of where the tournament was in the early 2000s, late 90s, as far as the star making potential that it has. On the other side of it, there's a huge cliffhanger as far as what this means for the Judgment Day, right? Finn turns on Damien. Dom turns on Rhea. Two key components of that faction. We don't know if they're in the faction, if they're not in the faction. We don't know if they're going to create a new version of the Judgment Day. We don't know if someone is going to, we don't know what's going to happen. And I feel like the magic of pro wrestling is that what if, and that I don't know what's going to happen next. And I think that through this, they were able to accomplish that. So I'm very, very happy about that match and about that outcome. But now, for the main event, Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa for the WWE Undisputed Championship. Bloodline Rules, headlined by the return of Roman Reigns. Your thoughts?
Uh, I don't want to do the burial job like everybody does with Solo. But after this, it's probably gonna be like, yeah, we gonna have to figure this Solo thing out. And probably the Roman Reigns decision was they probably planned this a while ago. I didn't expect him to come back. Obviously, it was rumored, and that's what everybody knew. But I thought it would be a couple more months for him. But he hasn't been gone that long anyway to begin with. It's not like during the pandemic where he was gone for like 6 months or something like that. He's only been gone for 4 months. Um, and then we're getting to that point now where we're getting to the end of the year, so you got to kind of tell these stories. I don't expect him to be there every single week. I feel like it's going to be just like before, where he's here every couple of weeks, once a month, something like that. Do you need him to be there every week? Not really, because we still have to really drag this. We got to get to Berlin. We got to get to Bad Blood, and then the Survivor Series thing that's rumored right now, and everybody thinks it's going to be Bloodline 2.0 versus Bloodline. Also, the main key factor is people have to realize that the biggest factor in this Bloodline thing is right now shooting Moana 2, or the live action Moana. So you gotta wait for, what is his title? Chairman? What is his title? VP? Oh, you on mute, brother.
In the context of the story, his moniker is the final boss.
Yeah, no, not the moniker, but his actual
Oh, I don't know. I
reign.
don't know his position. I don't know. I think he's just a board member of TKO.
Yeah, there you go. So you have to wait for him to get back. That's what they really doing. It's more so, yeah, Roman Reigns, we gotta wait for him, but we know he's probably gonna be back sooner than later. But you really waiting for the final boss to show up, because if you book this, what I think they're doing, it's kind of like I sent all these dudes, because Hikalu Turkalu, what's his name?
Hikuleu?
Yeah, he gonna show up. People think he might join with Roman Reigns. I don't think so. I think they just gonna keep stacking up all these,
These
Tongan
pieces.
Samoans, And then The Rock gonna be like, I'm the one that put all this together. And then Roman Reigns got to be like, well, damn, I got to get back with the Usos, but I'm kind of outnumbered. And then if you get Sami Zayn, that's 4 against, I think, 6 at that point,
Mm-hmm.
7. So it's like they're gonna have to figure that out. But then you also got Kevin Owens and Randy Orton, who's involved as well. So you got your numbers right there. But then that's gonna be a lot of Roman Reigns like, hey man, I'm tripping, bro. I was tripping to Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. But far as the match goes, Solo just he's really good at doing his spots.
Mm.
His ring psychology is just I beat you up. That's his ring psychology. Cody Rhodes he's good. I've never really been a fan of his working style, but he is good. I'll say that. But he essentially had to carry this match,
Yeah.
and he don't really need to be carrying a match. Not saying he can't do it, but he don't really need to carry in a match because everybody he works with, for the most part, they find and pick their spots, and they
Yeah.
know exactly what they need to be doing. But I mean, yeah, just I think this is good for Solo. Obviously, the first person to come out of NXT 2.0, the main event, and then the first wrestler in history born in the 90s. I thought he was like around my age, but first wrestler born in the 90s to main event of SummerSlam is pretty good. So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Tribal Chief came back, and like I said, I found out this morning, and we gonna see what's up. He gave Cody Rhodes that look like I'm gonna still get you, but we might have to team up for a minute.
I think that this match was really, really good. Obviously, with the highlight being the return of Roman Reigns, I think the Cody and Solo went exactly how I thought it would. Right when you think Cody has something going, then God comes out. Then right when you think something is going for Cody again, Jacob Fatu comes out, and he did that big Samoan splash on the table. Um, he's in a walking boot, as Banks mentioned to me. He's in a walking boot, but there was a real fear there because he couldn't put any weight on that leg, and everybody was like, "Uh oh," because when you can't put weight on something, that's a sign of something. But the fact that he's in a walking boot is a definitely a good sign. So we're super grateful for the fact that Jacob is doing well. So then there was that, and then we saw the return, the Roman Reigns return, coming out with the OTC shirt, which one tribal chief, original tribal chief, our tribal chief, interpretation is subject. But man, this is another stat that I got from Wrestle Tracker on Twitter. Roman Reigns generated $800,000 of revenue for WWE within 2 hours of his return at SummerSlam. WWE, they made a soon after Roman made his, this is from Wrestle Tracker 1. Soon after Roman made his return, WWE announced a new custom merchandise for sale. It was a Roman Reigns championship belt. WWE only had 1,316 belts, with one costing $600. All of them were sold out within 1 hour. When
Bruh.
Roman Reigns comes on your television screen and says that he is the last needle mover, that is not a lie. When he says that he is the biggest draw, when he says that he is the main event, that is not a lie. Another thing that somebody pointed out on Twitter was that this is the baby face Roman Reigns that WWE has wanted this entire time, right? He had to become the biggest villain to be a bigger hero, because when bro hit that spear and Cats was doing that ooh-ah, it was a energy shift. 57,000 people. And this was a pop that Roman had never gotten over the course of his career. He main evented WrestleMania. He has made surprise returns. He's beaten leukemia. But that pop surpassed anything he ever did as far as crowd reception is concerned. So I think that the bloodline story, if there is no other goal, if there is no other payoff, it's the fact that Roman Reigns has been transformed into the babyface that WWE has wanted him to be this entire time. I feel like there's still some layers left. I still like there's still more to do, and I feel like we're just getting started on this, but man, they did it. They did it. They found a way to make Roman Reigns the baby face, and a cool one at that. So, man, that I think that wraps up our SummerSlam little recap. But let us know how y'all feel. Damn, we went 40 minutes on this alone. Let us know how y'all feel about SummerSlam 2024. Drop them comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching the Culture 316 podcast. If you liked what you saw, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so that you guys can stay up to date with all upcoming videos and events pertaining to Culture 316.